Recording? Yes. Okay. We are now recording. All right. So hopefully everyone's here for the session today. So this is a drop-in session, very casual. We'll be talking about the National Knowledge Exam and a few nuances around it, both before it, during the exam, and then certainly after the exam. And we'll get into those topics in just a short moment. But I do want to just acknowledge this is a virtual event, so you may not be on Mi'kma'ki land. So I'm going to give a bit of a general land acknowledgement. So I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. All right, so there are three facilitators today. I will be your main host. So I am Nick Bainan, the CEO of CPHR Nova Scotia. This is an Atlantic event, so folks might be joining us from other provinces. Beth is with me. She's Nova Scotia's Member Relations Manager. And then Serena, who's also with us, who services both PI and Newfoundland. And there they are. Nice smiles and nice waves. So they'll jump in. Just pause for a moment and highlight or add to, and certainly jump into any other questions as well. All right, so let's get some easy stuff out of the way. What is CPHR? That's our designation. My camera's in the way. One sec, I'm just going to raise that. CPHR is a chartered professional in human resources. That's our designation. NKE is the National Knowledge Exam. That's the last time I'll be spelling it out. So for here on out, I'll be using the acronyms. But I bet you all have that on lockdown. We've got the three pathways. I'm not going to go through the three pathways, but we've got all three, the PI, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia. In regards to the topics we'll be talking about today, we're identical pretty much. If there's a nuance, it's not significant in any way. But we'll be covering components of that pathway, but not the pathway itself. But if you have questions later on, I think we'll just fly through the PowerPoint. If we can hold off on questions till the end, we'll just fly through this and then I'll open it up because I think everyone's questions are probably going to be very specific to your own scenarios, and I can always jump back to the slide. So part of the pathway, you have to have some academic experience before you can write the exam. So you can't come out of university with a philosophy degree and then challenge the exam. That's no longer the case. It's a best practice across industry. So we now require all writers to complete 9 what we call foundational courses. So we have a competency framework. These are the major categories and topics that most universities and colleges will cover. You can satisfy these through our program. It's called CPHR Academic Program in partnership with Captus. Or you can complete it entirely at a post-secondary institution of your choice, or it could be a hybrid. You may have completed some of these in your university degree or college diploma, and maybe you did 3. Well, you have to do another 6 with the CPHR academic program or elsewhere. So we do consider equivalency, so you can transfer. So if you did, the first one, accounting and financial management at Acadia, but none of the others, you can just transfer that over. We've got a process. And so once these are all satisfied, then the exam is open for registration for you. And there's a really bad spot, pardon me. All right. So what if you already took these? I kind of covered this already. So we do have a list of pre-approved. So if you go through the three, whichever province you're in. If you go through our website, there's links that will take you to Captus where you can see a long list of all of the pre-approved courses across the country, including Ontario, and well, all the provinces. And through that website, you can also complete the PLAR for short, prior learning assessment and recognition. So they'll review they need copies sometimes of your syllabus and your transcripts, and then they can approve it. But sometimes they have already approved it for someone else, and they just haven't posted it yet. So there's a process to play out for that. That's relatively straightforward. So what happens after you meet those foundational course requirements? So if we've been able to tick all 9 courses, fantastic. It's time to become a member if you haven't already. So you should apply with your professional association because you cannot write the exam without being a member. Okay, so once you're a member, hopefully you already are. But if you're not, you become one, then you register for the exam, and the exam is done once a year. So it's in the fall. Beth, is it late October or early November? In that area somewhere,
It's
right?
November 14th.
November 14th. Okay, so it's in the middle of November this year. And it's usually around that time frame each year, right? Yeah. Okay. So what does the NKE consist of? It's a multiple choice exam. There's 160 questions. 150 questions count towards your grade, and 10 are what we call experimental. We're not experimenting on you. We're just trying out new questions. We have banks of questions, so not every exam we're asking the same 160 questions. We've got a bank of like 1,000 questions, and so every sitting they just rotate through questions, and so they'll trial some. We've got writers that meet every couple of years. They'll write some new questions out. We'll test it out. If they're working well statistically, we've got some psychometrician, like they literally have PhDs in psychometrician stuff, and they go through and analyze the stats and tell us if it's a valid question and to include it in the bank or not. So bottom line is you're answering 160, but 150 count towards your grade. You've got 3 hours and 15 minutes to complete the exam. It's a knowledge-based question, 90% of which is based on so our competencies are broken up into 2 chunks. There's HR specific, which is 90% of the exam, and then there's general competencies. And it's like business acumen, innovation, things like that. That consists of 10% of the exam. It is remote proctored, so you can do it from home, and they would access your webcam, and there's like body movement assessments to see if there's any cheating going on. So there is some proctoring, some clever proctoring that'll sort of bring up a red flag for someone to jump in. And we've had a few people where it's totally innocent, they're just like jittery or whatever, and it flags the proctor, and they pop in and say, "Hey, everything okay?" There's a red flag or whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I had to stretch or something." But there's help there for you, and yeah, okay. So I've already covered this part. Okay, so once you're registered, what happens next? So you will receive an exam writer's handbook. So it's going to walk you through all the questions that you probably have about the exam, including accommodations, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. An email will be sent regarding booking your exam time slot. So you need to book, like it is on the 14th, but you'll get an invite to book the specific time slot. And how do you prepare for it? So there is a textbook list. So every question that is asked, of the 1,000, etc., bank of questions that are out in our environment, but again, you only see 160 of them. All of them can be directly connected to a textbook. The writers that write them, they don't just make them up. They're pulling them directly from textbooks. So these are the most common textbooks used in courses in Canada. They're all Canadian textbooks. Obviously, completing the foundational courses is by far and away the best way to prepare. There used to be a time where we didn't have the foundational courses. You could wing it. And our pass rate since we've introduced the foundational courses has skyrocketed. We used to have a pass rate of like 62, 63%. And last time I saw, I think it was like 72, 73. So 10 points is a huge jump. So now that we have the mandatory academic piece, it really shows people are coming in much more prepared because they've got that academic background. We do partner with Captus Press, not just for the PLAR that I mentioned before and the academic courses, but also they've got an online prep course. So you can pay a fee to Captus Press, and then they open up this program for you that really is quite intuitive. It gets you really prepped for the exam, not just on the content, but also on like multiple choice techniques and timing. So there's practice tests, and there's lectures, and there's quizzes, and then some tutoring with discussion boards. So there's a lot of great resources available that I'm confident if you did the foundational courses and you do the prep course, the odds of you passing are very high. These are just some general tips. I'm not going to go through all of them because I think we're all adults and we've all written multiple choice questions. So we know, like the first one's kind of obvious, like just read the question carefully. You don't want to go too fast where you misunderstood it. The second line there is wrong. Sometimes the wording can be tricky. That's actually not right. I think this was a general multiple choice question tip thing that we put together, but it's we're so clever in how we write the questions, and because we test them, we're always tweaking it. So the wording is never tricky, but still, you want to just take your time. The main thing I would suggest is just I love number two. I'm not going to go through the rest. Two is my favorite. It's such a no-brainer to just start off with like knocking out the ones you that are definitely wrong. Those usually jump out. If you've got it's a multiple choice of four options, and if you can eliminate two of them, I mean, you're so much further ahead, right? As I said, I won't go through all of these, but just use good multiple choice tactics. So we do offer accommodations. So if an exam writer does require an accommodation, there's a process. So unfortunately, sometimes people come up with these accommodations at the last minute, and rarely can we accommodate. We need to know in advance, and so there is a process that plays out. So you need to complete the request form, but that'll all be in your kit once you register. Um, Sometimes, life happens. You think you're all ready, and then life smacks you in the face, and you're like, yeah, it's not happening. Maybe you get sick, or, just life happens, right? So you can cancel, and you have to you can cancel prior to the registration. If you do that, there are some fees that will be incurred and are not fully refunded. You do have the option of deferring to the next sitting. So those are sort of your two options. So you can cancel outright, or you can defer to the next sitting. So you'd wait a year and you come around, and there are some fees with that as well. I'm almost done. This is my last slide. This one, I can't stress enough how important it is to remember that it takes time to score this, and that's not obvious. It's a multiple choice question. You think like, an hour after you're done, it should be able to be scored because it's multiple choice, and it's a computerized system. So we know if you got the questions right or wrong immediately. But it takes 6 to 8 weeks because we go through a very thorough process of evaluating the exam. Again, we've got PhDs behind this, psychometrician educated PhDs, and they go through, and from a statistical standpoint, they flag things. So if there's a distractor, distractor is a word that we use for the wrong choice versus the right choice. So A could be right, but B, everyone went for B, and especially the stronger students. So it was a very strong distractor, and they'll flag it for us, and then we'll put a committee together, and they'll look at it and they'll go, could be right, or is it just like a really strong distractor? And so it's analyzed to death for a couple weeks, but it takes a while to get that all organized and assess it, and so it takes time. That's long story short. It takes time to go through this before we can confirm. And then at the end of it, once it's confirmed, then if you've got successful results, then you'll be recognized as a CPHR candidate. So you're sort of halfway through the process. The designation is really broken up into two pieces. There's an academic portion, and then there's an experience portion. So this is considered the finish line to the academic portion, meaning you're not a full CPHR, you're a CPHR candidate. Very similar to the CPAs. CPAs have the same thing, CPA candidate. However, if it just wasn't your time, you had a bad day, whatever, if you're unsuccessful, that's okay. You can rewrite. That's not a problem. You can do it up to 3 times. And then if you failed 3 times, you would have to sort of take a timeout and then potentially write it a fourth time a year later, a fourth and final time. And in rare instances, a fifth attempt may be permitted. Just, it's based on case by case basis and by each province. And I think that's our whole presentation, but I suspect the questions you have are probably the main reason you're here. So we want to make sure that we had time for that. So I will open up for any questions. And again, Serena, Beth, feel free to jump in.
Hi, I had a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the last slide that you just had up,
Yep.
where it talks about the rewrite. It says that you can do it 3 times. Is rewrite written at the same time as the exam? Because it says then you wait a full year, but it seems like the exams are always a year apart anyway.
Yes, yeah, it's not at the same time. So if you wouldn't find out if you were unsuccessful until 8 weeks later, right? So
Mhm.
the exam is written on the 14th. 8 weeks later, you'd find out that you would have to do it again, and you'd be doing it in the following November. So you could do it immediately the next sitting 3 times, and then the next one you'd have to skip in November. So I
Okay.
guess technically it's like I guess a two years until you can write it after your third.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um, and then my other question was just around accommodation and like I
sure.
know you said once you enroll, you'll get more information, but do you have any idea like what type of accommodations are provided?
Uh, Beth, I think you probably have some good examples. I know we've had some writers that have been pregnant and needed to use a washroom. I think that's a thing, and we've had people that have back issues that need to stand multiple times or something.
Yes, the accommodations handbook is actually on the NKE page. And you can see in the form as well. And we do list some examples, which are permitting some extra breaks, like Nick said, allowing a medical device in the room, access to food or snacks, having a reader like a typist, increased time in the examination, washroom breaks, access to a separate room. So those are some examples.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. I'm just more curious
Yeah.
about like neurodiverse accommodation, if they're like what kind of would be offered for that. So I'll take a look and see what I can find.
Yeah, and I'll
Hmm.
pop that in the chat.
Yeah, and after you review it, Amy, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we can find out from uh, uh, I was going to say Captus, not Yardstick. That's their old name. Measure Learning is who facilitates the exam.
Okay,
We can certainly, if there's something that would be helpful for anyone that's not on the list, and there's no harm in asking.
perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. I think I was talking to someone actually, Serene possibly, um, about the pathway. So once you complete the test and pass, there's different pathways to get accredited.
Hmm.
Um, so my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm completing my 9th course of a program that's acknowledged as one of the ones that I can go forward with. But I also have a degree from a university, and I've also worked doing HR as part of my job now for some time. So I can use that experience plus my degree and the passing of the knowledge exam to get the designation sooner. Am I saying that correctly?
You got me a little confused. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this pathway.
Yeah.
So if I pass the knowledge exam,
Yeah.
assuming that I passed all my 9 courses, so I have that.
Wait,
But I also,
before we go, sorry, I just have, if we can go step by step,
sure.
can you confirm the foundational courses? Can you describe how you've satisfied them? Because if you did them all at the CPHR academic program, for instance, you might be able to skip the exam. So can you, is it
Oh,
a
okay. So
combination of university and art courses, or?
No, so I did it through York University.
Okay.
So I did their, well, I should say I'm still doing it. I have one accounting course left to do. And
Okay.
so when I went on that PLAR equivalency,
Yep.
it was there.
Yep.
So
Perfect.
knock
Okay.
on wood, I passed that.
Yep.
So that ends this October 27th. So I'm kind of not in a position to register before September for the exam because I won't be completed my
Right.
course.
Okay.
So yeah, once I have that done, I'm assuming with that schooling, I still have to write the exam, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So once I write the exam and pass it,
Yeah.
so I'll have that portion done.
Mm-hmm.
But on this pathway 3 here, this is probably where I'm getting confused. So I do have experience in HR in my job right now. Okay.
Yep.
So that
At the
can
advisory
go,
level?
yeah. So I'm a director of, yeah. Okay. So I do have that experience here. And then I also see that there's like a degree, like you having a degree from a post-secondary institution.
Yep.
Okay, so I have that as well. So does that mean wherever I'm at with the years of experience, once I pass that knowledge exam, I could have the designation right away? Does that make sense?
I mean, there's another step, but you don't have to wait. There's not a waiting period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So often, so you're an outlier a bit. More frequently, what we see is someone has completed the exam successfully, and they're not quite into an advisory level role yet, and so they start banking that time. Occasionally, less frequently, I should say, like you, they've already got the 3 years of experience in their back pocket. So as soon as you get the successful results of the exam, then at the next validation of experience period, you can apply immediately. So it's not like you can't do it the next day because we do the validate. I'm going to call it VOE, not validation of experience. We do the VOEs twice a year. And so if you write an exam, if you write in November and then 8 weeks later, you actually would be pretty close. You would get the results in January-ish. And then February, the next month, we'd be doing the validation of experience. We'd be opening that up for applications. So you'd only have to wait a month in that scenario, a month-ish.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. That was my only question.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, it was a very straightforward question. I got lost in the details for some reason. I don't know why.
I do too, all the time.
Okay. Any other questions or anything that we didn't touch on? I mean, I skipped over the multiple choice tips. I don't think that was fine, right? You didn't need me to go through that in detail.
Actually, I do have one more question. So that Captus Press, the prep course.
Yep.
So you go through your website to sign up for. How does that work? How does that work? So say if I'm done and
you're
I'm
in
like,
Nova Scotia, right? It looks like.
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing Citadel behind you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share my screen and show you. Let me just go to the home page here. So CPHR designation, become a CPHR. The pathways page kind of has everything. I usually go there. But I'm just going to jump right into the NKE. And you will find online prep course here under helpful links. And I think, yep, that's going to take you to a new site. So you've left CPHR Nova Scotia. You've now, I lost everyone? No, you're all there? Good. Okay, sorry, I got a weird noise. Oh, someone joined. So you'll end up on this new page, Captus NKE prep page, and then you can just register here. That's
Perfect.
it.
Thank you.
No
I
problem.
popped the link in the chat as well.
Thanks, Beth. Prabha, thanks for joining us. I think we're just wrapping up now, but we did record this this presentation, so we'll be happy to send you a copy of it. But if you had a specific question, we do have time.
That would be great.
Okay. Did you have a specific question, or would you just rather see the general presentation?
Yeah, I would like to see the general presentation.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, Amy and Sue, I'll give you one more chance if there's any other questions that you've thought of. And even if you don't, you can tell we're friendly people and our doors are open. So don't hesitate to reach out to Serena, Beth, or myself. You can just use the hello@cphrns.ca and it'll go to the right person, and we'll get back to you usually within 24 hours.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Amy. Thanks, Sue.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Prabha.